you for this morning that you have allowed us to be here. I ask that your Holy Spirit is with us as we open your word and that you teach us the truths that we are to know. In Jesus' name, amen.
So I had big ideas about, as this trimester comes to an end, of hitting three subjects: the furnishings and activity in the most holy place, the binding off, and the prediction. But that, you can tell that ain't going to happen. So when I started down that road, I had Tyler throw in Nehemiah, because as we were looking at the sanctuary, I wanted to include some lines on the prediction, and Nehemiah, being the cupbearer, has to contribute to that at some level. So there's been still some issues about Nehemiah, so let's dissect what we do know and move on. Okay, Nehemiah 1, verse 1. Someone want to read that? Who's first? Gabriel?
Yes. The words of Nehemiah, the son of Hekeliah, and it came to pass in the month Chislev, in the 20th year, as I was in Shushan the palace.
Okay, so Chislev is the 9th month, right? Mm-hmm. So Michael, read 2:1.
2:1?
Yeah.
And it came to pass in the month Nisan, in the 20th year of Artaxerxes, the king, that wine was before him, and I took up the wine, and gave it unto the king. Now I had not been before time sad in his presence.
And what's the month of Nisan?
It's the first month.
The first month. But it's still the 20th year. But the months are different than the year, right? Everyone know that.
What was that? The months are different.
Yeah, explain that to us, Michael.
I got it. I know.
Chislev and Nisan in this instance are according to the political calendar, not the religious. So it's in the 20th year according to the way that they calculated political times. So if that's the right word, political.
Yeah, that's the way you answered it before. And I don't like that answer.
That's the answer.
That's the answer about the months. You're making a distinction about the months. But the distinction that I'm looking for isn't about the months. What's the distinction I'm looking for? Anyone know? The 20th year in both verses is speaking about the reign of Artaxerxes.
Yeah.
He could have started reigning in 1950, or he could have started reigning in 1970. His 20th year is about how long he as a human being has been on the throne, and the months are kind of secondary to that. You know, it's not the biblical years.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's the time that Artaxerxes is reigning. Okay, so in verse 1 of 1 and 2 of 1, one thing that we know is it's in the 20th year of Artaxerxes, right? Is that correct? But between this verse and this verse, we have 120 days. 4 months. Okay. So it just seems like that's a distinction that needs to be noted. It's not the first month of 457 BC. Everyone with me on that?
Yeah.
Therefore, the 20th year of Artaxerxes, if it's a symbol that we're to understand, it's a symbol that we're to understand differently than these 4 months.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's not the first month of 457, even as a parallel, but when you get to the first verse of chapter 2, it's the first month of the year 408. 444. It's the first month of the year 444, because that's the same year that Nehemiah goes forward and then builds the walls.
Is this going to contribute to what we're doing?
What I'm saying is that it's it's in the same year that Nehemiah goes forward and does that
Yeah,
work.
I don't have a problem with that, but I mean, are you going to give us some light out of that? So anyway, this 120 we know is what? It's a symbol, right? Okay, but yesterday I hope we all seen that the 49 ends. Read chapter 6, verse 15, Brahman. The 49 days of work.
So the wall was finished in the 25th day of the month Elul in 52 days.
The wall's finished in 52 days. And what is it? Chapter 2, verse 13? Jason, chapter 2, maybe I'm wrong on that. 2:13. No, 11, 2:11.
So I came to Jerusalem and was there 3 days.
Okay, if we read the following verses, on the third day he does a circuit, right? So you got the 3 days here, and it took a total of 52 days. So that means once Nehemiah gives his sermon the morning of the third day, that it took 49 days to finish the streets and walls. And Michael wants to remind us that this is in the year 444.
I didn't have a particular reason, but yeah.
Okay, everyone with that? Understand that? No? Okay, so where is he when he's at the 3 days doing the circuit?
Jerusalem.
He's in Jerusalem. Okay, so we gotta find a waymark before these 49 days to plug in Jerusalem, right?
Yeah. We can figure out how long he traveled too. So I don't know if that helps, but I'll figure it out in just a minute and then I'll add it in because it says that they finished the work on the 12th month and the 25th day. So count backwards 52, and that's when Nehemiah arrived. Count backwards to when he left in the first month. That's how long he traveled, right? So.
You think so? Everyone follow that?
Yeah, if he left right
Okay.
after it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're saying you know when he finished?
The 25th day of the 12th month.
The 25th. How come you know that?
However you pronounce it, Elul is the 12th month
Uh-huh.
of the civil year, but it's the 6th month of the sacred year. But we're just considering it in the context of how you've already placed it. It's the 12th month.
Where are you getting your information from?
My Jewish calendar in the back of the Bible.
Where are you getting the 25th day?
Oh, didn't it say the 25th day? What the verse Brahman just read?
6:15. In the 15, the wall was finished in the 25th day of the month of Elul.
Okay, so the wall's finished on the 25th day of the 12th month, and so how are you going to figure this out, my brother?
I'm going to work backwards.
Yeah, well, backwards to what? What's the next point?
Well, 52 days backwards from that point. I can't say exactly, but it's when Nehemiah arrives.
So 25 from 49 is it's 24 days back into the 11th month.
But is this the same Artaxerxes' reign? At this 25th day of the 12th month, we're still dealing with the same time element that we started with? Nisan?
Yeah, that's what I would think. That
Yeah,
you're
you'd
still
have
dealing
You
with
are.
the same
So
element.
Yeah.
we've agreed that that's all
He
the
didn't
same
take
month.
years to go there. He went as soon as he could. He left.
So do you know how many days are in the 11th month?
That I'm gonna work it out real quick, and then you can keep going where you were going.
Okay, so after he does this subtraction here, this subtraction, it's taking these 25 days from the 12th month and subtracting it from these 49 days that are preceded by a 3-day circuit in Jerusalem.
How do we get the 444 again?
History. How do you get the 444, Michael?
7 weeks, or sorry, not 7 weeks. It's historical, I guess. It's just historical.
Wikipedia has it.
Yeah, it's that's standard.
It's a
The pioneers,
historically- okay,
the
that's all I
pioneers
wanna-
mark it, but we calculated it once and we got the same time because you can. Anyways, it doesn't matter, but we've calculated it once in the first trimester.
Okay. So after you get this, the 24th day back into the 11th month, but you realize what you have to do is you have to figure out how many days are in the 11th month, right?
Yeah.
And it could be what, 30 or 31?
29 or 30.
29 or 30.
But if you're just taking, if you're trying to go very specifically, I don't think you could figure it out without doing some serious research.
So we're not doing it real seriously.
You could do 30 days in a month and get a close estimate.
Yeah, but you'd have to do it seriously.
Yeah.
Because the only value it would be. Do you realize what he's trying to do?
Yep.
He's
And
trying to
count the
work
days.
backwards to this day into the 11th month, which would take you to these 3 days, and then take these 3 days off, and then go to verse 1 of chapter 2 and see how much time is between verse 1 and here. And if it was 120 days, it would be astounding, but it's going to be more than that.
Do the rough. Just do it rough.
That's why I was saying rough, because it doesn't give us the exact
Because if it's
day.
120, if it's 100,
We'll
if it's
latch
100,
onto it.
no, I'm saying if it's 119, then it's probably whatever one
But-
brings it to.
It can't be 119.
No, I'm saying, for
It's-
example,
It's
for
got to
example,
be
What's the question
360 or something.
specifically? How many days are in what month? So those that are checking
Okay.
the internet right now can find it.
Yeah, you have to find out
How many days are in a
in the
Elul?
year 444.
Yeah, in
Oh,
that
in
year.
the
Because there's a
444.
19-year cycle that
Okay,
they're
yep.
changing
That's
how
where it's
many
real
days are in a year.
That's
And
right.
you'd have to go back to 444 and find out how many days are in each of those months, because you're going to walk backwards to the first month.
The way that you would do it probably is that we already know 1 year, and that's the year 1843 and the year 1844. That 1 year, you would go backwards from 1844 and find every time that you have a leap year.
19.
But it's still just logic, because you need to know when the barley was ripe, and that's impossible unless there's a record like an almanac. or
Okay, so
whatever.
we're getting to a level that
That's
is not good. This is going to
not
make us, and we don't know which day of the first month he left.
That was my point. To get a rough number is what I was saying.
So,
but
do we want to run down that rabbit hole right now?
no.
All right.
We'll let Michael do that when he's in his rabbit hole
Has nothing
mode.
to do.
We will go back to the basics. All right. When he does the 3-day circuit, he's at Jerusalem, right? Where is he in chapter 1, verse 1?
Shushan.
Okay, so where is he in chapter 2, verse 1?
Shushan.
So between Shushan and Shushan, we have 120 days, right?
Which is confirmed by Prophets and Kings, page 630.
Prophets and Kings, PK
630.
630. Shushan. All right. What do we have here that we don't have in this Shushan? I don't know that I'm approaching this verse.
Cup.
Pardon me?
A cup.
He's a cupbearer right from the start.
It's not mentioned that he's a cupbearer.
But he is.
Yes.
He gave something to the king.
That was
The
his
wine
job
was before
description. Pardon me?
The wine was before him.
Yeah. he
The
gave-
wine was before him. Okay, you guys are probably the wine.
Sadness. He hadn't been sad.
That, but what? There's something else that's significant. All that's
The king and the
significant.
queen are
The
sitting
king and the
together.
queen are both there.
Mhm.
What's that?
The marriage.
Marriage.
Churches
Is it?
are married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way you want to relate to it to uphold your idea. So the king and the queen. This is the king's crown. This is the queen's crown.
How do we know the queen is there?
It
It says so. Let's read it. Where is it?
In 2?
2:6.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Kathy. Chapter 2, verse 6.
And the king said unto me, the queen also sitting by him, for how long shall thy journey be? And when wilt thou return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time.
And what does your marginal reference say for that queen?
Right.
Wife. Probably who? Mine says,
15 years ago.
or wife. probably Esther.
1844.
That's incorrect. Though.
That's incorrect, though.
Yeah, it has to be because Xerxes is not Artaxerxes. The pioneers made this same mistake, actually. Some of them did.
Okay, well, that we don't need to deal with that anyway. Okay.
Unless she transferred
Of
over.
the 7 Persian
to-
kings, who is he?
He's the 7th.
This is the 7th one?
Yeah, and Xerxes, Esther's
The
husband,
great.
is the 5th.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay, so he gets permission to go here on the first day or on the first month in the 20th year of Artaxerxes. But we really don't know other than what Michael's going to do that'll give us a rough idea because you don't know the day of the month.
The 3rd day of the 11th month is what it seems like he would have arrived at Jerusalem. So approximately between the first month and
Third
the 11th
day
month.
of the 11th month.
Jay says 444 is the leap year.
444 is the leap year.
I don't know how that affects your calculations. That's
So then
the
the
cycle
next-
of 19, yeah.
Yeah, so then you're good counting it at 3029, 3029. If the leap year is that following year. Like that if
444
that year's
is
a
the
leap
leap
year.
year.
Yeah, so you're not that extra month's not affecting you then because it comes after the 12th month.
Oh yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
so it won't
Yeah,
affect
too.
you in your count.
That's right.
So you go 3029, 3029 backwards, and the 12th month has 29 days in it. The 11th month has 30. So
We're going to actually do it. Thanks, Bowen. This is the 12th month, 11th month, 10th month, 9th month, 8th month, 7th month, 6th month, 5th month. Is this what you're saying?
Yep.
4th month, 3rd month, 2nd month, 1st month.
Yep.
36, 45, 54, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. 354 days takes you to the first day of the first month.
Yep.
Okay, minus 49 days takes you to
You should do minus 52 days because it would take you to the first. 49 takes you to his 3rd day when he
takes you to
gets
this way mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you're doing all of them. I see what you're saying.
And this one takes you 3 days back to 302.
302 days. Which-
So now you would start here and go backwards. Or I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, so right now where you're standing, and this is what I was mapping out right now just to make sure I was correct, because I always get confused with the full, the inclusive, exclusive. If I'm correct, it's the 3rd day of the 11th month that he's standing, and that's your first 29. You X that one, the very top 29. You cross that off. We've already counted it. You cross off 30, and next to that you put 3 left, 3 remainder. So 3 plus the rest of those numbers is how many days it took him from the first month to get to where he's standing when he first arrives in Jerusalem. So 3 plus, it's 302, like you've already just done. So 302, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months. Yeah, 10 months, because 1 plus 11. 1 plus 10.
Roughly 10 months.
Roughly.
But you don't
10
know when
months.
he left.
Yeah, he could have left at the end of the first month or in
So
the
what
middle.
what did that do for us?
Nothing.
Now we know. Just to know.
Well, we know what day that midnight is now.
We know what day midnight is.
The 11th, the 3rd day of the 11th month,
Yeah, you
if
have
that
it
was
at
correct.
The midnight cry. I think
Yep.
it's at midnight.
3rd day,
And it would be the 5th day of the 11th month.
Which is
That-
3.
3rd day of the 11th month.
And I'll
And I'm going to put a question. We're not going to say that's,
we'll double check it. Yeah.
yeah. Sister Karen.
Just a comment on when the Queen asked for how long, that takes you right to the Sunday law.
The queen asked that.
Yeah. How long?
And the king said unto me, for how long? The king asked that question.
For how? Oh, okay, the King. Okay, sorry. Anyway, how long it takes you right to the Sunday law?
Why is that?
Because that's how long. That's how long we've
That's
been
the
mentioning
answer.
everything in the Bible that says
So,
how long.
so
it takes
you
to the Sunday
you
law.
can prove that to me?
What we've been saying.
Yeah, could you prove it?
No.
Okay, so
Yeah, you
Sister-
can. Yeah, you
Si-
can. You guys can.
No,
You can't just go
Sister
with all the
Karen
references for how
just
long.
identified her pop quiz for tomorrow. Okay, so you can have 15 minutes in the morning or 10 or 15 minutes to show us why how long identifies the Sunday law. Does that sound fair? Because everybody else gets thrown up here, but you haven't been here on a regular basis, so you haven't been thrown up here. Does that sound fair to the class?
Oh yeah.
Do
Okay.
it easy.
Testimony of two. All right. So how long is identifying the Sunday law? But what does that do for us?
It just places us before the Sunday law.
See, does it? See, this is create for you a
it does.
problem.
It does.
It creates for you a problem.
It does.
Sure. He's stand. Well, I don't know. It's
Well,
not a
aren't the
problem,
walls- aren't
but you
the
got to
walls
understand. He's standing in the first month, and the question is, how long is your journey going to be? But we're realizing that his journey goes to Jerusalem, and then he's going to do a 52-day work that takes us to the Sunday law. But this question takes us to the Sunday law. Is she asking how long is the journey? Because his journey ends here.
He's asking, the king's asking, how long will the journey be? And the midnight cry is the Sunday law, so there's no discrepancy there.
Okay, so that's what you're saying. His
Yeah.
journey. How long is the Sunday law? Do you get what she's saying? She's saying the midnight cry is also the Sunday law. So his journey is ending at the midnight cry, which is also the Sunday law. Now we're saying that how long typifies the midnight cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, so he gets to Jerusalem
Well, then you would have to.
at midnight.
Would you have to put the? Is it fifth trumpet? No, fifth. What fifth? What am I thinking of? Where the martyrs ask how long? Is it fifth trumpet?
It's a seal.
Yeah, it's a fifth seal.
Fifth seal. Sorry, fifth seal. That would have to be before. That has to be 9/11 or before the midnight cry. At least at some level, by that if that logic is correct.
Well, explain why that has to be.
Because we know that the fifth trumpet is, or it would have to be the midnight cry rather, or the fifth seal, sorry, would have to be the midnight cry because we say, when the fifth seal is identified, Sister White places this clearly at the Sunday law. She's saying that when that crisis begins, there's going to be a time where more martyrs have to be made up and they have to wait. So that would have to be also the midnight cry by that logic because they're
so
the same, they're twins.
Is there a group of martyrs made up here?
Spiritually. That's what
Spiritually.
we've been learning.
Is there a group of martyrs made up here?
Literally.
Okay, so where do you place the question of the martyrs at the fifth seal?
At the Sunday law.
No, where
In
did
the
they? I'm
binding
saying
off.
where did they ask the
In
question?
the binding off period for the priests and the Levites.
Yeah,
Under the altar?
the
Under the
question how long is identifying the terminal point, right?
Yeah.
But when is it that the martyrs ask the question that ends at the Sunday law?
The time it, no,
Yes.
it's the time it ends.
It's back here in 1989. It's right after Thyatira. Thyatira ends, that's the fourth seal. And then in the fifth seal, at the end of this period of darkness, in Zechariah chapter 1,
Verse 12.
is it verse 12?
Uh-huh.
They ask, how long shall you not have mercy on Jerusalem? That's right here. The question is asked here. The answer is here, right? Right, Tyler? You're the one that's
Yeah.
bringing this into it.
No, I was just making sure that is still applicable.
So we're saying here is there martyrs here, and what did Bronwyn mean? What did she say?
Spiritually, the martyrs
The two
are at
witnesses.
the midnight cry, and then literally at the Sunday law. That's what she said.
But what does that mean?
That's what Mark was teaching us.
Brother Gabriel, do you know what that means?
I understood it, but I.
What are we basing that on? Where are we deriving that from?
Revelation.
Daniel and Revelation.
Okay, it was put in place by Brother Mark
A week ago.
in Revelation 11.
Yeah, 3.
That first there's a spiritual death, then there's a physical death, and after that there was another line that came up on it and upheld that. What's the other line? This is maybe easier to see.
Haman, not Judas.
Judas.
Yeah.
Judas falls twice. Judas falls when he closes his probation and gets up from the table and he's demon possessed. But then he goes out and hangs himself and he falls there. So at the beginning of the binding off and the end of the binding off, you got Judas falling 2 times for the binding off of the priest, but Judas falls 2 times for the binding off of the Levites. He gets up from the table, is demon possessed here, and then he hangs himself here. So, but the point is that the first fall of Judas and the first fall of the witnesses in Revelation 11 is identifying a spiritual death, a spiritual martyrdom, and the second is a physical. Okay.
I think Nabal, we haven't considered it yet, is another witness to that. Because his heart is hardened, and we know spiritually in the Bible that's just a sealing off that that's a spiritual. And then he literally dies 10 days later.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nabal,
I think Nabal gives the
spiritual,
same lesson.
physical.
Yeah.
Two things slightly off, but back where we were talking a second ago. It's the 4th day of the 11th month, and it is 4 months. It's 4 months he travels, just about, because we accidentally mixed both the calendars together. If you're starting at Nisan, it's the first day in the sacred, but he's not talking about the sacred calendar. He's talking about the civil calendar. So it's the 7th month. So when you get to Elul, you're only 5 months later. That means that he arrived 4 months from Nisan, if he left in Nisan. So it's just about 4 months on both sides of Nisan. Chislev to Nisan is 4 months. Nisan to Ab, or however you say it, is also 4 months. So that's pretty cool.
So he's here.
Yeah.
He's asked how long. He says to here. But it has a dual application of the midnight cry and the Sunday law. And from here to getting to here, we're saying 120 days.
Yeah. Potentially.
We've talked about this before, but I don't understand why the symbols that we've already established, the symbols in chapter 2 seem to very much point to the midnight cry in a lot of ways. The ones we've already established, like the cup being given to the king, which we know is the midnight cry. That's when the judgment arrives. The queen and the king, that's the midnight cry. It's the marriage. How long, pointing to the Sunday law, but I guess, depending on how you're looking at it, that's different. And the 4 months being there, it seems like, I know you're going to eventually put 9/11 at.
You don't know what I'm going to do.
I know you are, because you've already done it before. This is.
No. You don't know what I'm going to do. But go ahead to make your case.
My case is why is a repeat and enlarge not valid?
Why is a repeat and enlarge not valid?
It seems like we have to do more.
Okay, does everyone understand what he's complaining about?
Not
Why the 120 shouldn't just be from 9/11 forward. That's what he's saying.
I'm saying if we've already established the 120 as the 120 of Ezra 7:9, the 4 months by many witnesses. Now we're going to potentially place that on the left side of 9/11 from 1989, or if you're marking
so you're saying this is. I need to move something here, right?
I'm saying right there is
9/11.
that. Yeah. Okay.
This is 9/11.
Yeah.
This is what you're saying, and this is chapter 2.
This is yeah. You're in chapter 2 now. Yeah.
And so you got the king and the queen here on the throne,
Yep.
according to you.
No, they're not. No, they're at the end of the 120. They're at the
Okay.
midnight cry.
They're at the binding off time period.
Yeah, because that's I think, and I could be wrong, that the king and the queen being identified there is marking the marriage.
So you have 120 days from chapter 1 to chapter 2.
I'm saying that's where the repeat and large is. That's what I'm saying. My point is that in chapter 1 we've identified that as the time when you were supposed to turn back to the old paths and repent the sins of the fathers, and that is been marked in 9/11.
I realize your arguments, but from
I'm trying to
chapter 1 to chapter 2 we got 120 days, right?
Yes.
Okay, so but you're saying that we're starting chapter.
I'm saying chapter 1 starts at 9/11, ends at the midnight cry,
And chapter 2 starts over.
And
And,
chapter 2
and chapter 2 starts here too.
No, chapter 2 starts at he's at the midnight cry.
Okay, he's at the midnight cry in
Yeah,
chapter
and
2.
chapter 2 starts there. And the
Okay.
cup is there, the marriage is there.
It's hard to say that though because he's at Shushan still.
Shushan can be the whole time period. He's in the United States. Because in Esther, Shushan's all over the place, and, you know, the only one that we're strictly identifying as 9/11 is the first Shushan. And Esther 1:1.
Okay.
I'm telling you,
I agree with him.
there's something seriously profound, though, about understanding the 120 from the 7th, because the 7th month is the first month. So it would say that Nehemiah left in the 7th month on the first day of the month.
Did you follow him? I didn't. Explain it to us.
When you put two of the calendars side by side,
Okay.
the first month of the sacred calendar
That's
is...
chapter 2.
No.
Chapter 2 is the civil calendar.
Yeah. So it's the 7th month. Nisan's the 7th month of the civil calendar. So that Nehemiah and Ezra
Of the
both...
civil, we've been marking it as the first. Go slow with describing your month.
the same as
Yeah,
the civil?
that's what I'm saying. It is the first. We've mixed them. That's what I was saying. Is that the civil calendar, Nisan, is the 7th month. And Nehemiah is using the civil calendar.
We just now marked it as the first month, and that's how we got
It
our
is-
120.
It is the first month. That's what I'm trying to say. It's the first month on the sacred calendar. We
So what are we doing? Artaxerxes, are we doing sacred or civil? Because that's on
has to be civil, because the way that Sister White calculates it, the way that she calculates it as 4 months, there's no other way for it to be other than civil. So this
Why?
is the civil calendar,
I don't
because
understand.
when you use
Why do you say that?
if you count from Chislev, oh man, I don't remember exactly the argument, but I'm like 100% positive that you have to be using the civil calendar here, and I can't remember the exact argument, but it doesn't map out right. But nevertheless, the point is, I can think of that later. My point is that in Nisan is both the 7th month and the first month. It's the 7th month in the civil, it's the first month in the religious.
That's here.
Yeah. So
Okay.
my point is that he leaves in the 7th, but Ezra leaves in the 1st, but they both leave in the exact same month. And they both travel to Jerusalem.
But
The
as
7th month of the civil
Yeah. Is the first one.
and the first month of the...
Sacred.
Alright. So he's leaving for Jerusalem. That's chapter 2, verse 1.
Chapter 2, verse 1.
So what's chapter 1, verse 1?
Chislev.
Sometime before that.
It's 120 days before that, is it not?
Yeah. And unless what Tyler's saying is true, and then it's
So
repeated
what's the
March,
civil
but
and
yeah.
sacred then of Chislev?
But what if I'm understanding you right? Even if this 120 from here to here is valid, you still got 120 roughly from here to here.
Yeah. At least an inferred. They both leave the same place in the same month. That's what I'm saying. They both leave in Nisan, and they leave Babylon in Nisan. Or, well, he leaves Shushan, but they leave from the presence of Artaxerxes. So,
Nehemiah and Ezra leave
yeah,
at the same time.
prophetically I would be saying that they're leaving at the exact same time.
But forget Ezra. The calculation we did over here, working backwards, you're saying to get to Jerusalem, roughly 120 days, probably
Yeah.
120 days.
Yeah.
So you've got 120 days plugged in here from that argument. But between chapters 2 and 1, we've got 120 days from that argument.
Yep.
And what Tyler doesn't like is the idea is putting this in here. He wants to put it in here and say that it's a repeat and an enlarge.
Because
That
he
makes
prays
sense.
the prayer of Leviticus 26.
Because he prays the prayer of Leviticus
And
26.
we've already defined early on in the class that 120 is a symbol. So when we have symbols, we should be able to overlap them, right?
Overlap
There's
them.
Line upon line says if 120 is just a symbol, then if there's two 120s, they should be the same, right?
Okay, in the story of David and Abigail, from 1989 to 9/11, where is David?
Correct.
Haran. Or
He's
no,
in the
he's
wilderness of En-Gedi.
Engedi, yeah.
Getty.
From 9/11 to the midnight cry, maybe all the way to Sunday law, he's in the wilderness of Paran. So you got a wilderness and a wilderness.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're
And
saying.
a wilderness is the
120.
40, but a wilderness is 120. Is a wilderness 120?
Yes,
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
based on context, that's right.
Where's
Why is a wilderness 120? I mean, it is, but I don't know that we've ever proved that. Why? You at least got to think through so you understand why is 120 a wilderness. Brother Jim, you're the expert on wilderness. You're going to give us a sermon on wilderness. Why is the 120 a wilderness?
I will include that in my presentation.
So political.
Well, from 9/11 to the Sunday law, how many years are they in the wilderness? 40 years. Okay, so this history here is a 40. But we can show that from 9/11 to the midnight cry, how many years are they in the wilderness? 40. Okay, and at the midnight cry, how old is Moses when he dies? 120. But how old is Moses when he dies at the Sunday law? 120. So 120 is a 40.
And it can be moved around.
Right? So you could have a wilderness here and a wilderness here, and they'd both be 120s. Right, Tyler?
Yeah, I see your logic. Now you just have to explain all the symbols.
Okay, well, let me explain where what's challenging me. Go to, or making me wonder about this. Go to Daniel 9, verse 2. Tamina, you want to read that?
Which verse?
Daniel 9:2.
9:2.
2, thank you. In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by books the number of the years. Wherefore the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolation of Jerusalem.
Okay, does anyone know how that verse was applied for like 15 years at least? What did that verse symbolize?
Josiah finding the book.
Yeah.
The title of
The time of the end. Okay, that was for 15 years. It was here's Daniel illustrating someone that's discovering a prophetic message out of the prophetic books. He's illustrating the time of the end in that history. At the end of the 70 years, there's a time of the end, right? Okay, but we've come now to understand at 9/11, this is where you understand the 2520. So from that point on, we've been pretty much saying that this is Daniel because he's going to do the 2520 prayer in the following verses. This is 9/11 when he's returning to the old past, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I'll tell you what, I got it, taught it, get it, but I've taught for more years than the old past that this is an illustration of the time of the end. Can it be both?
Yeah,
Can it?
I think so.
Why? How could it be both?
Some
Fractal.
books have more than one meaning.
Symbols can have more than one meaning?
Fractal level?
Fractal level? What arrives in 1989?
First angel.
What's empowered at
First
9/11?
angel.
First angel.
First angel. Could this be the 20th year of Artaxerxes and this be the 20th year of Artaxerxes?
Both right.
Oh, yeah, we've done it several times that way.
No, but I mean the number 20 is the same symbol. Two different places.
Yep.
4 months apart. What happens here in chapter 1, verse 1? What happens to Nehemiah?
He learns of the condition of
He
Jerusalem.
what?
He learns of the condition of Jerusalem.
What is that? Did he
It's
know of the condition?
An increase of knowledge.
It's an increase of knowledge. Right here.
Where and where?
Chapter 1, verse 1, they come to him and he has an increase of knowledge about the condition of Jerusalem.
When you're done, I remembered the logic to establish that one point. But
Okay, so what I'm throwing in the mix is that if you're not following it, and I didn't have this about this 120 days, this could be this history here, this 120 from here to here.
Does that mean every time we see a prayer or have seen a prayer of Leviticus 26 that we need to now apply it at least at one sense at 1989?
Daniel's prayer came in 538 before the time of the end even. So, I mean,
Before, right?
if you're going strictly off,
Chronology.
if you're going strictly off the chronology,
Yeah.
it's not. We already see the prayer is not at the same place. It just depends how it's understood.
Yeah, well, okay, so what he's saying is if we're using Daniel, if I'm understanding this right, as an illustration of the time of the end, technically Daniel would be praying down here.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that challenges your idea of marking him as the time of the end, then you should really be challenged about putting him here.
At 9/11.
Because this takes place long before 9/11,
Yeah.
his prayer.
And it's within the sequence of the reform line, so it's like, why are you justified in sticking it down later? Well, because prophecy. Lots of things are able to be done this way.
Okay, is right here in Daniel 9:2, where we're saying that he's going to pray the prayer of Leviticus 26, the 25:20 prayer, and this marks the old path. Here we're putting it here at 9/11. If we put it back here at the time of the end with Daniel, is there any connection to the 25:20 to 1989?
Yeah, the 126 years.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
1798.
And 1798.
The
And
end of the
70.
25:20. So I mean, the connection to the 25:20 is both here and here. And this is the first angel's message. What is this?
Empowerment.
It's the first angel's
First
message.
angel's message. This is the arrival. This is the empowerment. That's what I'm saying about Artaxerxes, 20th year, 20th year.
I see exactly what you're saying, and that makes sense. But in terms of Nehemiah, or just anything that has an issue, not an issue, but a possibility of something like that, where it could be here or here, it's the context that would define it, right?
Yep.
And based on that point, I think that the symbols in chapter 2 are more specifically pointing towards the midnight cry than they are earlier. Because what you would have to do is
Let me raise it. I already know. If you're, are you guys following this?
Yes.
Okay. If you're going to say this 120 is the history of 1989 to 9/11, then this history here is chapter 2, verse 1, and you have to answer why the king and the queen are there. Is
And
that
the
what
cup.
you were going to say?
And the cup.
And the cup.
Esther teaches the king that Haman's evil heart is already in act at 9/11. So it's all right to mark a two-horned power being present at 9/11 with an evil intent. Even though we can't read that into here, we already mark the power being present there in Esther.
Are we seeing a two-horned power or a marriage, though?
I'm just saying it's okay to see a civil and a church and a state there based on Esther.
Well, what happened at 9/11 that would allow you to mark a church and a state there?
That they were ready to pass a Sunday law.
Okay,
But
that would
because
that would
Israel-
Haman's
be the
evil
state.
heart was already there, even though he hadn't acted out on it. We see a decree there.
Okay, so you decree what decree?
Patriot Act.
Okay, so Patriot Act. What about the queen?
Spiritual
Queen is
formation.
in dark.
Spiritual formation.
How?
Spiritual formation.
How?
Yeah.
Coming into the
Coming
that
into
would
the
make
church
sense.
at
So you
in
can put the
September.
king and queen here at a couple levels.
But that is different than the king and what you just mentioned is not a marriage, there's a church and a state doing separate things. What is described at the midnight cry is a combination of church and state marked by the marriage. Do you see the distinction that I'm making? It might not be valid, but I see that distinction.
I'm not fighting with your logic, Tyler. I'm trying to arrive at the truth. Here, you got to corrupt a marriage, right? That's what you're saying. The symbol of the image of the beast. There isn't nothing sacred about this either, but it's
No.
teaching a different lesson.
Uh-huh.
John the Baptist, have we marked where Herodias and Herod get married?
Midnight or married?
Married because John the Baptist gets beheaded because he was
Protest.
prescribed. He
Protest,
protests their marriage, and he gets beheaded at the midnight cry. So the marriage of them has to be prior to the
Before.
midnight cry, and he has to give a message against them. So either they're married at 1989 or 9/11, somewhere in there. It seems that would be reasonable, prophetically, and then he would have a message against that specific thing that's taking place.
I think Mark, and it doesn't matter what Mark teaches, I'm not saying that, but I think Mark teaches that the United States is married to the papacy back here in the Ronald Reagan years.
When they
Yeah.
made
And that these are the birth pains or something, or the
Progressive faultiness.
yeah.
okay, so all I'm saying is we've already seen evidence of this joining as a symbol all the way back in
He does
here.
arrival empowerment. He says it arrives and it's kind of like empowered by the Patriot Act. He does like, that's
Yeah.
how it's going. It's almost
it's
like the
all the
angel's
first
message, but a counterfeit. He doesn't say it like that, but I've heard him say that.
Okay, so here's what I want to throw at Tyler to think about, because he's the one that presented this, and I really don't have a problem with what he's presented, is that we need to consider this, because it may be that we're at the point now where the Lord is going to open up some more ideas about this history, and he's doing it through here, and you're bringing the right point up. Does that mean that every place that we've been applying a prophet praying the Leviticus 26 prayer, which is Nehemiah and Daniel, does that mean that we have to rethink it and see that maybe it has a connection back here? So any of the symbols that we're connected in this history, does that mean that we have to rethink them, not just the prophets praying? And maybe that's what's happening. Maybe there's some other aspect that is being opened up at this time. Because it is hard for me to understand, except on repeat and enlarge, why this 120 days between chapter 1 and chapter 2 that brings you to the king and queen. Anyway, I don't know how to... everyone sees the dilemma that we're in, right? Anyone have any light?
I had a comment. Maybe it's because maybe God's bringing us back to the prayers because we are to experience those same prayers.
What are those prayers?
To
No, that's a bad question. I agree with you. I'm trying to confirm that. This is the prayers of acknowledging the sins of the fathers.
yeah,
That's what's going on in this history, without a doubt.
and it's showing us the 25-20 in Leviticus 26, which ends at or starts at the Sunday law. So we should be going back before the midnight cry and praying just exactly the same.
Yeah, that's right here.
Yeah.
That's what the old path is. It's the return to the old path, and part of that is acknowledging where Adventism turned away from the old path and the fruits of that walking into darkness. We have to go back and acknowledge that in order to be sealed here.
He's trying to combine the whole message, the old message,
Romans.
the new one.
Brahman.
I see a parallel between Nehemiah 1:4 and the actions of Nehemiah, and then Esther 4:1 and the actions of Mordecai. They look like the identical same thing, so I don't exactly remember how we placed
Okay.
Mordecai in Esther 4:1.
We should probably do that now, is read chapter 1 and 2, and let's do 4 verses each, and Bronwyn can start, so when she gets to verse 4, she can tell us what she's speaking about.
Where we read
Nehemiah 1
1
through 4.
Chapter 1, we'll go 1 through 4. We'll go through these 2 chapters, and we'll put this on the shelf, and tomorrow we'll start with this.
Can I say something?
Pardon me?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
We know that the Lord demonstrates the end with the beginning, and we know that it took 3 trials for for Jerusalem to be trodden down, right?
Yeah.
I was just wondering if that would have any help with us to understand how Israel was conquered, in order for understand for us how the end finished or how it was rebuilt.
It was conquered with 3 kings. It was raised up with 3 decrees.
Right, but I'm not sure if this will do any light on it or bring more confusion, but in Ezekiel 40, verse 1, it says, in the 5 and 20th year of our captivity, in the beginning of the year, in the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year after the city was smitten. In the same day the hand of the Lord was upon me and brought me thither. Here we have a month and a day that the city was smitten. I'm not sure if that's going to help us to bring any light in what we're studying.
Perhaps, but that's the kind of rabbit hole that you and Michael run down sometimes. You'll have to do that and bring it back to us.
Since we're in a
I
rabbit
don't
hole,
have the aptitude to do that right here.
Since we're in a rabbit hole right now, can I quickly just
Oh
say
yeah,
something?
Michael wants to do his thing.
I just want I said that it has to be the civil calendar, and what you started out with this morning was the actual logic that contradicts that thought, which you use the 20th year to help establish that it's the civil calendar, but if the 20th year is not connected like you're saying, and it's true, then the logic kind of falls apart there. But nevertheless, whether you use the civil or the religious, you stay consistent. You stay all the way in the religious calendar and count through, or
Can I
ask
ask you a question?
Yep.
When we're talking about civil calendar, we're talking about the civil calendar for the Hebrews, right?
Yes.
So Artaxerxes is a different civil, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. So nevertheless, you can't I don't think you can say 100% for sure that it's the civil or religious, but either way, it's still the exact same amount of time because the months correspond to each other. So you stay all the way in the religious. So where we said Elul is the 12th month, it's actually the 6th month if we're in the religious, or it's the 12th month if we're in the civil. No matter which way you count it, the days are the same. You still have 4 months.
Okay.
That's my point.
6th month civil.
Yep. No, religious, so.
Sacred, you said before. All right. What's your point?
I'm in. Yeah, sacred. Yep. My point is that it's still 4 months. That's my point.
What is still 4 months?
Whether
from
you
here
count
to
it,
here, or from here to here?
from the day that he leaves to the day that he arrives in Jerusalem.
Okay.
Yep. Approximately 4 months is what it.
Whether
still
it's
is.
civil or religious.
Yep. What we had done initially is we mixed the two and we said, oh, it's the 12th and it's the 1st, and so we counted 10 months, but it's actually the 6th and the 1st. So there's 5 months between, but subtract 1 because you actually he arrives a month before that, 2 months before that. So.
Okay.
Anyways.
Verses 1 through 4.
The words of Nehemiah the son of Hilkiah, and it came to pass in the month Chislev in the 20th.
What does Hilkiah mean?
Hilkiah.
I had this. I wanted to throw this in the mix. Hakaliah. Okay, and it means darkness.
But the little book doesn't say that. It says something different.
But you want to tell us what it means, Tanya?
Yeah, darkness of Yahweh, darkness of Yah.
Darkness of God, but go to the next level.
Darkly flashing.
Darkly flashing, next level.
That's as deep as it goes for me. I see darkly flashing,
Dark and
brilliant.
dusky, I guess.
That's all I got.
It goes down to an eye. It speaks about the eye. The flashing of the light from the eye. No one has that but me.
It's whom Jehovah enlightens. Strong.
It says,
Whom Jehovah enlightens.
Yeah, that's so strong.
Okay, the point I'm getting is, if we're putting it here with Hakaliah, and if you use the quick verse, that no one has quick verse in here?
Esword.
Esword.
Yeah, Esword.
proper.
Yeah, Esword. That's what I'm using.
Yeah,
Go down
only the eyes. It says darkly flashing, only of the eyes.
only of the
In a good
eyes.
sense, brilliant as is stimulated by wine.
Struck blind.
This is the light that comes from the eyes. God's eyes. Okay? Or do we have any illustration of God's eyes? Revelation.
They run to him, yeah.
What are the eyes? How many eyes are there?
7.
There's 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits. Okay? So are the 7 churches paralleling the 7 seals?
Yes.
And the 7 trumpets?
Yep.
So they would be paralleling the 7 spirits and the 7 eyes at one level, right?
It says they are too.
So here is what? It's the first eye. Because in these histories, Christ is removing the seals progressively one at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, till you get to the full unsealing. All I'm saying is Hakaliah is the first eye, which is an argument that it is the beginning, the time of the end, the increase of knowledge begins here.
Technically, can't you put, if the seven churches line up with the 7 kings, you can put Manasseh, we know for sure, at 9/11, so you should be able to put...
we do put Manasseh here and here.
That's my point, is
Yeah,
it's equally valid. At what you're saying, equally valid for either point.
Yeah, that's so putting Daniel here and Daniel here, or Nehemiah here and Nehemiah here, it works. And Hakaliah is the beginning of the increase of knowledge. Go ahead, sorry.
Then Hananiah, one of my brethren, came.
What's Hananiah?
Hananiah came.
Comforter.
This Holy Spirit comes.
Something like gracious. Grace is the Spirit.
And the primitive root is a property to bend or stooping kindness to an inferior, to favor.
Okay,
One
time
of
of
my
the
brethren came. He and certain men of Judah, which is good, because Judah is marked there, and we know that. And I asked them concerning the Jews that had escaped, which were left of the captivity, and concerning Jerusalem. And they said unto me, the remnant that are left of the captivity there in the province are in great affliction and reproach. The walls of Jerusalem also is broken down, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. And it came to pass, when I heard these words, that I sat down and wept and mourned certain days and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven.
Because I'm saying that qualifies as an increase in knowledge. They come, they tell Nehemiah there's an increase of knowledge about Jerusalem. Okay, Tyler. No, go ahead.
Wouldn't, for him weeping and mourning, wouldn't that fit in with Ezekiel 9? Ezekiel 9, the sealing those who sigh and cry for the abominations?
Could.
Which would place it during the sealing time.
Right
Well,
here.
we have a lot of them where it talks about.
Oh,
they wept.
you just brought
Where do we put that?
Manasseh and Manasseh.
No, I know. I'm just saying you're emphasizing time of the end. But for every emphasis you're making, you can make the opposite emphasis that it's 9/11. That's
the
all I'm
point
saying.
that I'm trying to make here about Daniel 9 and Nehemiah is that it's probably illustrating both of these waymarks, the time of the end and the impairment. They're both the first angel's message. 20th year of Artaxerxes, 20th year of Artaxerxes. Tell us about Esther.
Also, Sunday Law and Midnight Cry are always paralleling, so we have then on the opposite side of that mirror, 1989 and 9/11 paralleling with their things. I don't know what that means, but you can see it. I'm just saying in Esther 4, the first 3 verses, you're seeing this fasting, weeping, wailing, sackcloth, ashes, crying with a loud and bitter cry. It sounds like the same experience. They're in the provinces. We know already that the province that they're in is in the province
But
of Shushan.
where's Mordecai at when he's doing this? Or is this the problem? You're saying this is the people.
No, it's Mordecai and the people, although Nehemiah is doing it alone.
Okay,
This
Esther 4 what?
4, 1 through 3, but 3 specifically in every province, and we have back there in the provinces, where the king's command and his decree.
This is a loud and bitter cry.
Yeah.
That pushes it all the way into the midnight cry minimum.
Yeah.
Anyway, next 4 verses, Brother Jason, of Nehemiah 1.
And said, I beseech thee, O Lord God of heaven, the great and terrible God, that keepeth covenant and mercy for them that love him and observe his commandments. Let thine ear now be attentive, and thine eyes open, that thou mayest hear the prayer of thy servant, which I pray before thee now, day and night, for the children of Israel thy servants, and confess the sins of the children of Israel, which we have sinned against thee. Both I and my father's house have sinned. We have dealt very corruptly against thee, and have not kept the commandments, nor the statutes, nor the judgments, which thou commandest thy servant Moses. Remember, I beseech thee, the word that thou commandest thy servant Moses, saying, if ye transgress, I will scatter you abroad among the nations.
What is this? This is the 25-20 prayer.
Leviticus 26.
Yeah, Leviticus 26. Kathy, next to the end of the chapter.
Okay.
9/11.
But if you turn unto me and keep my commandments and do them, though there were of you cast out unto the uttermost part of the heaven, yet will I gather them from thence, and will bring them unto unto the place that I have chosen to set my name there. Now these are thy servants and thy people, whom thou hast redeemed by the great power and by thy strong hand. O Lord, I beseech thee, let now thine ear be attentive to the prayer of thy servant and to the prayer of thy servants, who desire to fear thy name and prosper. I pray thee, thy servant this day, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man, for I was the king's cupbearer.
Okay, he's the king's cupbearer right there in chapter 1.
It's interesting the verb he uses.
I
I was the king's cupbearer. Just interesting verb.
But he's the king's cupbearer right from the start, right?
Yeah.
Don't hide behind that camera. So he's doing Moses' Leviticus 26, 25, 20 prayer, and in verse 9, halfway through, there's a promise that he would do what? No.
Gather them.
He's going to gather them, and what else?
Bring them to the place. It said his name on them, and then we went through that
No,
whole
no,
thing.
no, it's where he's bringing him to the place where he chose to place his name. In the
Bringing
scriptures, where does he choose to place his name?
Zion.
In Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the city that the Lord did choose to put his name. But this is a promise based upon Nehemiah's prayer that in the future tense, they would be gathered. The gathering begins at 9/11, and he takes them to Jerusalem here. I think you can see in this prayer, this here, a 3-step process. Because the gathering, it's a promise that I will gather them
And bring them.
and bring them to here, to Jerusalem. Okay, so I'm not really trying to fight Tyler's application, but next 4 verses, Sister Tamina.
In chapter 2?
Yep.
And it came to pass in the month Nisan, in the 20th year of Artaxerxes the king, that wine was before him, and I took up the wine and gave it unto the king. Now I had not been before time sad in his presence. Wherefore the king said unto me, Why is thy countenance sad, seeing thou art not sick? This is nothing else but sorrow of heart. Then I was very sore afraid, and said unto the king, Let the king live forever. Why should not my countenance be sad, when the city, the place of my fathers, sepulchres, lieth waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire? Then the king said unto me, For what dost thou make request? So I prayed to the God of heaven.
Okay, so you place this here, Tyler, right?
No, this is the midnight cry.
Okay, you're placing this at the midnight cry, and we have sadness, we have wine, we have fear,
Request.
and a request. Okay,
And a king and a queen.
king and a queen, king and queen,
And
wine,
how long?
sad, fear. We're not to how long yet, are we?
No.
Wine and what else?
Uh,
Request.
Request.
That'd be an inquiry?
And he prayed to God here. He said, So I prayed to God of heaven.
Prayer. We could have a king and queen here. We've already discussed that. Is there wine here?
Yeah.
Is there?
False doctrine.
My question is not. I'm not being combative, but how do we place a cup there? Can we? Is there application of a cup that's at 9/11?
It's why he says, I was the king's cupbearer.
Yeah. That's what I-
Probably he's not bearing his cup at this moment. Maybe he is. I don't know.
Well, chapter 2, verse 1.
No, it
he is
says I
bearing the
took-
cup because he gives
took the
wine.
wine.
He
It
gives
says I
it
took
to
up
him,
wine.
It was.
Oh, it wasn't 9/11.
I know we
That was
have.
meant
I know
for
we
the
have wine
United
there.
States.
It's easy to show wine at 9/11.
What's the wine?
New.
Wine of Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what's the message of the second angel at 9/11?
Babylon is fallen.
That's verse 2. What's verse 3?
He's going to make all nations drink of the.
Wine of the.
Okay, so
She
there's a drinking
has.
of the wine right there at 9/11. According to verse 3.
Drank of the wine of the wrath of her fornication.
And the wine of the wrath of her fornication, wine being a doctrine, her fornication being the combination of church and state, do we understand that the United States has already bought into this concept at 9/11?
Because
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
3 decrees were in his hand, yeah.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
already
that's
in place. So that would qualify there. Sadness,
I was mourning 3 full
That's
weeks.
the sign and the crying.
sighing and crying begins there at the ceiling. Fear, first
Fear God.
test, fear God, give Him glory.
First hour.
Judgment. The request.
Ask ye if the Lord rain in the time of latter rain.
Yeah.
I think so.
That seems stretching.
We'll take that. We'll take that.
It's
He asked 2 times, 2 requests. It was,
Well,
Yeah,
where
if
do
we
we
read on.
where do we usually put the inquiry?
The inquiry's at the midnight cry.
the request is at the midnight cry too, though. They're different. I think they're different. Maybe they're not, because you have the request of Herod, and where Herod says to Salome,
You're saying a request is asking for something, and an inquiry is a question.
yeah, because you have the distinction from like Herod and Salome, but you also have Esther who goes before the king and makes a request.
This request is to a king from Nehemiah. It's from God's people to
Do
a
we
king.
have another king that asks the symbol of God's people a request here? I can think of one.
No, Nehemiah's asking him, isn't he?
No.
He's saying, what is your request? Make your request, Nehemiah. For what dost thou
The
make-"
king is asking Nehemiah.
He's asking him a question.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The king's requesting of Nehemiah, what do you want?
Okay, the word request is actually Nehemiah requesting, though.
Really?
Yes. Make thou, what makest thou, what's your request, Nehemiah? For what dost thou make request?
The king is asking him what he wants.
The king said unto me, what does you want to request? The king is not, you can say the king is requesting, but the word request applies to the subject.
The king is
Nehemiah.
requesting him to present his request.
He's asking him what he wants.
Yeah, I understand the logic. I'm saying, but the word request specifically
Okay,
applies to
but
the
you can place it in either direction, all right?
Yeah.
The king is requesting him, tell me what your request is. That's a
Yeah.
request.
Yeah.
And now Nehemiah is going to give him his request. But what I'm saying, is there a king that makes a request at 9/11 for God's representative? Doesn't Pharaoh do that with Joseph? Explain this dream to me.
Yeah.
And this dream begins here, 7 years, or
It's-
7 years further.
You would lose the.
Jeff, you've had hands up, so.
Go ahead.
Jesus is asking John the Baptist to baptize him at 9/11, right?
There you
he
go.
come to
Yes,
the Jordan?
suffer it for now. I forget it.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Midnight cry.
Go ahead.
If you take it from the standpoint that Nehemiah is requesting something from the king, then you can parallel Esther requesting something of the king, and they both fit. They both have that same. It's the same dynamic, same exact dynamics. The king asks, "Okay, you can make a request," and then they are allowed to request.
Seems to fit better, huh?
What?
Seems to fit better, huh?
That's what I'm saying. Some of them seem to fit. Like you can show fear at any one of those waymarks, but which one's the right fear? You know, that's one problem that I think we have just in general, just because of the way fractals work and everything, that there's a correct application of something and everything isn't necessarily everywhere, but you have to know exactly which one is.
Rightly divide the word of truth.
Yeah, rightly divide.
Tyler's argument is, if I'm understanding him correctly, that then the request is at midnight cry when she goes in and touches his scepter and makes a request of him. That's the point.
And if you put, and if you put the cup at 9/11, unless I misremember the story, you can't parallel the butler, because the butler ends at the midnight cry. I think. I could be wrong. I don't remember correctly.
Yeah.
I'm saying those parallels seem to fit better with that.
Yeah, I get the illustrations of the cupbearers have specific points, but the truth of what the cup represents
Absolutely
begins there. The message that comes in 1989 is the cup message: judgment, close of probation, and it's being sounded before 9/11. That is the message of the last 6 verses of Daniel 11. It's at the Sunday law
Sunday law,
probation
Sunday
closes.
law.
That's the cup message.
Yep.
So there's a cupbearer from the beginning to the end. But I agree with you where we're seeing the classic illustrations of the cupbearers. This would be the first one we've seen at 9/11 if it's valid. You want to read the next 4 verses, Brother Jim, so we can at least be done with this? 5 through 8.
Where's your spot?
Nehemiah 2:5.
Alright. And I said unto the king, if it please the king, if thy servant have found favor in thy sight, that thou wouldest send me unto Judah, unto the city of my father's sepulchres, that I may build it. And the king said unto me, the queen also said by him, for how long shall thy journey be, and when wilt thou return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time. Moreover, I said unto him, the king, if it please the king, let letters be given to me, to the governors beyond the river, that they may convey me over till I come into Judah. And a letter unto Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give me timber to make the beams for the gates of the palace which appertained to the house, and for the wall of the city, and for the house that I shall enter into. And the king granted me according to the good hand of my God upon me.
So his desire is to go to Jerusalem. When does Ezra leave for Jerusalem?
9/11.
Is there a decree at 9/11?
Yeah. And worldwide. Verse 7. It's worldwide.
Yeah, it's worldwide, which is a characteristic of 9/11.
Asaph means collector, collect together, draw up, he that gathereth or removeth reproach.
He who gathereth or removeth reproach.
So we know the reproach is removed at the
But
midnight cry.
what's the forest that Asaph is the keeper of?
The wilderness?
People.
King's Forest.
It's people.
A people.
Oh.
What's being gathered is the
Outcast
building
nation.
materials to build the temple. And who are the building? What is the building materials to build the temple?
The people.
It's God's people.
Right.
Does the gathering begin at 9/11?
Yes.
But that doesn't contradict what you're saying.
No, it doesn't, because the Levites are gathered at midnight cry.
Yeah. Okay. So, but it fits in there too. We got all those components. A decree, but and in the midnight cry be worldwide too, because this is where the two sticks are joining together. This is where the heathen are being awakened to what the issues. Okay, next 4 verses, Sister Christy.
When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant, the
You skipped one.
Yep.
Oh,
you
I'm
did.
sorry. Then I came to the governors beyond the river and gave them the king's letters. Now the king had sent captains of the army and horsemen with me. When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, heard of it, it grieved them exceedingly that there was come a man to seek the welfare of the children of Israel. So I came to Jerusalem and was there 3 days. And I arose in the night, I and some few men with me. Neither told I any man what my God had put in my heart to do at Jerusalem, neither was there any beast with me, save the beast that I rode upon.
So we everyone agrees here's Jerusalem, right? That is not. We're all in lockstep on that. Before they get to Jerusalem, there's enemies that are fighting it.
It's interesting that there's the threefold enemy in this book.
But this isn't it.
No, this is 2 of the 3.
Yeah.
I forget how we label the threefold enemy, but why those 2 are mentioned before you got Geshem in there. You know, Sanballat, Tobiah.
Typically, this would be my argument that it goes over here where Tyler wants it.
Because of the
2 enemies.
The 2 enemies.
Because here you got Korah, Dathan, and Abiram in this history, but here you got Hophni and Phinehas.
Nadab and Abihu. Your 2.
You got the double enemies here, but in this history, if you're placing it in here, you got double enemies. Sister Brittany?
Which would make sense because then the third one would come in at that binding off period.
Where are you placing the 3 days? Where does he arrive and where are the 3 days?
He has to arrive back here. This is the third day. This is the binding off. Midnight. At
So
midnight
this-
he makes his circuit.
So this would be a repeat and enlarge?
So
No, this is still going chronological. From where it
So
was.
I'll do it this
Well,
way.
where are the 3 days?
Right there.
1, 2, 3.
And the 120, we're guessing, based on Michael's rough, until he perfects it, is there, right?
Yeah, because
Doesn't
he's
that,
in Jerusalem.
doesn't that
at
one
day
seem a little bit... That one's a little weird.
Oh, you're wanting to put it over here.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
the way I'm asking you where you're putting it.
Where
personally,
I'm putting
in,
it?
in your understanding.
Why?
I'm walking through this chapter. I am not putting it anywhere. One,
I've understood this as a repeat and
2,
enlarge, and then
3 is what.
the
You
binding
can't
off.
do that
Yeah.
then because he's in Shushan and you're saying he's coming to Jerusalem and he's in Jerusalem. So when you lay Jerusalem under there and he's supposedly in Shushan, that won't work. The 1, 2, 3 has to be at the end of the 120.
It'd be a repeat and enlarge.
Okay, well we have to define. Now we're doing repeat and enlarge, but if we're doing it like this, it has to come at the end. 120 has
If you're
to be
doing
over.
chronological, then yeah, then you'd have to. But you have to explain how you have 1, 2 before the 3, because we know, based on Sister White's testimony of midnight, that when he arose in the night, it's midnight. You have to place how there's 2 days before that don't start at 9/11.
Yeah, it does.
No,
The
no, no, no.
120
It
there in
depends on how you're
Shushan.
relating to it.
It
Here,
depends, yeah.
this is Tyler. Tyler is saying 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we're suggesting perhaps 120 brings you to the first day, second day, and then the third day is when he does his circuit, right?
Right.
Oh.
That's this is the heart, one of the.
But a point in
The
the period
problems.
allows you to put the 1, 2 inside the binding off, and the 3 would line right up with the midnight cry.
No, it doesn't.
It would.
He rose at
No,
midnight.
because it's in the third day
He does
that
his
he
circuit.
arises at midnight, and
To do
midnight
the
is July
circuit.
21st.
He starts his circuit at midnight of the 3rd day.
He starts his circuit at midnight the 3rd day.
Okay, this
I
is
see,
midnight.
I see. Yeah. I see the problem.
That's not very good midnight, but this is July 21st, 7:21, and the midnight cry is 8:15. But he does it on this third day.
I think Tyler's saying no way. The 1, 2.
It's you got to suddenly you got a
You
1.
can't put the
hanging
1, 2
here.
in,
Yeah, I
in
see
with the
his problem.
120. You can't put the 1, 2
No,
like
no.
we have the
It's-
first, second angel's
He's in
message, and then
That's-
the third
that's-
angel's message is at the binding off.
Yep, that's what Tyler's point is that you would start the 1, 2 back at 9/11, and you would do 120, and then you would repeat and enlarge. You'd go 1, 2, and get to the third. The 1, 2 is synonymous with the 120.
This is 9/11 is what Tyler's saying. The third step is here from midnight
Right.
to the midnight cry.
Right. That's
So
I
it
thought
says
we've
in verse
established
9, 9 through 11, when it says 9, verses 9 through 11, that's when we know to repeat and enlarge.
Is that where we're standing? Is in 9/11?
And verses
this verse.
Nehemiah 2, 9 through 11,
Really?
then I came to the governors. And so then that would give you your clue. Jump back to 9/11 and start your 1, 2.
that. Yeah.
Then is like, not to be profane, but it's like a new scene.
So I kind of see that. Like
Like
it's a
like
break.
in a movie, it's a new scene.
Then-
He's at Shushan and now he's at a different place, and
Then-
that gives you your logical break.
And verse 9 through 11 is perfect,
We're out of time.
numerically.
So you got here what Tyler is saying is this first step and this second step lead you to the third step, but we're saying that from here to here is 120 days. Right?
On a different line.
Is
Yeah, potentially. Maybe the 120 is wrong about the month. I know it's 4 months, but
1, 2, and the circuit.
it's your turn to pray, Brother Jason.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the study. I pray that you forgive us for our sins. I also want to pray that you're with us throughout this day as we go and do our duties. Protect us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.